Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. And in this edition of Where I Went Wrong, I'll be doing Where I Went Wrong, UFC Vegas 52, I believe, or UFC Vegas 53. Out of the way, it's Lemos versus Andrade, UFC Fight Night. Whether it's 52 or 53, I'll correct it in I guess caption, or description, tags, etc., etc. But you already know. But as far as the card, I had three things that went wrong. What I went 8-3, 8 of 11. The Romanov versus Sherman fight fell out. Probably would have been what 9 of 12, 9-3 without a doubt. But yeah, it is what it is. But three wrong. One was definitely BS. Not really a whole lot to talk about like that. Barry versus Jackson fight. What I would get from that fight outside of prediction wise, matter of fact, prediction wise, it's not nothing wrong with the prediction. It was just the only thing I guess you could draw from this situation is you got a fight between two low tier guys, low caliber guys. Jackson clearly lower. Barry, but burying all that stuff himself, one dimensional versus one dimensional. And yeah, like you get two low caliber guys, and one guy is his favorite with big odds like that. Just throw some money on the other guy. Just throw some money on the guy with the dog, because anything can happen. It's two low caliber guys, and low caliber inexperienced guys are gonna do low caliber inexperienced things like he did. Try to get him off him because he's trying so eager to get that finish that he gouged his eye, or he was trying to push him off, and his finger went deep in his eye. Whether intentional or accidental, it caused a DQ, and Jackson got the victory. So you got two low caliber guys. Anything can happen. It's MMA. It's not like Barry has some good history or he's just so well rounded or like this guy some solid grappler going there with a guy that's only got striking or something like that. Or this guy's just so different, so world class or so worlds above him. It wasn't the case. And we watched the fight, it wasn't really that like the skill gap wasn't as big as people would imagine, and I wasn't imagining be no big skill gap. I thought Barry would have had a little bit more skill and he had the power, and Jackson couldn't wear the power. And he got dropped a couple times, but ultimately trying to get that finish, stuck his finger in his eye, and it was a DQ. But going forward, I guess the only thing I could draw from this one, it's a loss. It's not. It don't feel like a loss, but it's a loss anyway. It's gonna be on the record. But they got to draw from that. Like I said, big odds between two low skill guys. Just avoid putting that one guy on the parlay. Or I didn't put him on my parlay, but I guess as far as when I talk about it, I could tell people not to put him on my parlay, not to get so crazy and put big money on, because he definitely not worth that big value that he was, that you could or just put the whole house on him, and because you knew it's a short thing, it's not. And he wasn't really worth putting in parlay because not like he added so much value to the parlay. So many other better options with history behind him and skills behind him, the back of there, put that value that you put on your parlays. So it was like no worth in putting him in there. But I say like put a little $5. Some people want $25, one this, one that, to put like Jackson on parlay. Like just throw him on a parlay or to put a little coins on him in a straight bet or something. That would have been the thing. But as far as actual prediction, what more can you do? What can you have done about that? Nothing. And going forward, I would pick Jackson again. Not Jackson. I would pick Barry again. But yeah, Barry's the first one I got wrong. I wouldn't pick Jackson. I would pick Barry again. And both these guys, I could see them as real easy to pick against, no matter who they fight in the division. I can't really see anybody in the division that either guy beats actively. I can't see them beat anybody in the division. Whether it be they try to jump up to middleweight, they try to jump down to lightweight, stick in welterweight. I don't see nobody that they really could beat from what I saw in that fight. And then Jackson's previous fights. But then the next fight, I think was Clay Guida versus Claudio Puelles. It probably was another fight before that, but it's either way, I'm gonna mention that fight as well. It's the Claudio Puelles versus Clay Guida fight, and it was probably my tightest matchup on this card. I felt, as far as my opinion, as far as predicting wise, was Renata versus Jordan. So the two picks I got wrong, that I actually got wrong, were two of the picks I wasn't so as confident in, and I would recommend them to anyone as far as from my perspective. Now I clearly got it wrong, so and the ones I did, feel good on, which was most of them, went almost as expected. But yeah, as far as we're gonna start with the Puelles versus Guida one. With this one, I'm gonna be honest with this one. Sometimes I be having like little personal little feelings about some things, not too deep into it, and I don't just go so crazy like I just dislike this fighter so much, or I just like this about him, or this and that about him, that I just go and make crazy bad predictions. Make it sometimes feel like that on some predictions, or some histories I'll be like 0-3 bet on this guy, like I was betting against this guy, like 0-3 against Puelles. I think I bet I was a Felipe Silva fight. That was a fight where I feel like it kind of really started my impression of Claudio Puelles when he's all getting ripped to the body and curling up and like been looking all submissive against Felipe Silva, and then was able to pull out that late submission. I did not like how he reacted to taking damage. How he was all rolling up, spreading his legs, and just looking all weak and vulnerable, like he was about to find a way out. But he was able to stay, dig deep, pull out submission. Like even though that was a good victory for him, so that he could come back face adversity. I don't know. I just for some reason that fight just didn't rub me the right way, and that kind of led me to I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't rub me the right way. So I just feel like I like to pick against him, but this fight right here clearly just dismisses all of that, at least for now. I feel like he goes in there with a wrestler with solid takedown defense and, round enough striking and a little bit of power. I feel like they can cause him issue. I feel like he going in with like a better, more experienced grappler who can ride that top position and get the takedowns and neutralize the submission attempts. That's somebody who could beat him. But yeah, depending on how they stylistically match him against, they just keep on giving him grapplers around that level, or some veterans that's kind of up there in age like Guida. I can see him tapping out. I see him going with people that have grappling deficiencies. I can see him winning those fights, but I don't know. Like it definitely kind of shook the cobwebs off and shook my little impression off over him. And as far as how I thought the fight go, it's like two ways. I thought Guida could ride the top position to a decision, maybe a little bit of striking here to get the takedowns, neutralize submission, and win a decision. Or Puelas will be able to find out, like, slip a submission in there and tap him out. And it happened really quick. But I guess the thing here with this one, a personal feeling about a fighter, like, somebody just don't feel their style the best, or how, that their fighting philosophy or whatever case I'm trying to go with, their demeanor to fighting, or how they take damage and how they react in situations. And you just kind of like this a fighter, you just fade. And that's about like I kind of was with Puelas for, I guess, his 3, 4, not his first fight. The first fight I just feel like with the Silva fight, I feel like Silva at the time was the better fighter. But he clearly was able to, get whooped and rally, get that submission, that Hail Mary submission. Then against the Jordan Levitt fight, he was the more well-rounded fighter. Like in hindsight, to me, he's the more well-rounded fighter. Because the first time I saw him fight, he didn't really have no striking. Striking did involve more. His wrestling involved more, and he was a more well-rounded fighter than Jordan Levitt by the time. But judging based on what I saw, I didn't see him as that much of a well-rounded fighter. The third fight, I mean, now the third what lost to him was Guida. Yeah, like he's gonna keep winning. I don't see him being still don't see him being no star, no big stud in the division. I don't see him going up being no top 15 guy, but I don't know, sky's the limit. I just gotta see how they match him, and I'm gonna have to look at it more, more in depth, and not be so opposed to him, I guess, as I have been in the past and in this fight. But sometimes you gotta learn the hard way, and I'm learning the hard way, at least in this match. And some other fighters I've learned the hard way, like going on these streaks against them, or like streaks of losses against them with some fighters. I don't have the best track record currently right now with him. Don't have a single dub involving him, so this thing's the more look in depth going forward. Because 0-3, that's the point we got to start saying, like, now I really got to sit down and really got to look at him as far as his next opponent, his matchup, and also another factor that's clearly been old and I've been mentioning 1,000 times. Like sometimes play that age factor. Now I guess with the age factor, like say like last fight, the Spivak versus not Spivak, but anyway, it was like Alexei Olenek versus Vandera. Yes, Olenek is old, but Vandera just not that good, and his grappling is a weak area. So even though the age is a factor, I guess what I'm trying to say is age is a big factor, unless it's a case of that the younger fighter is just not that good, or it's a clear stylistic advantage for the older fighter. And this one was in a clear stylistic advantage, and it's not like Puelas was a bad fighter. So you're going there with Guida. He has a submission grappling advantage. Wrestling, no, but submission grappling, and then he has a significant age advantage. He's rising, momentum's on his side. Probably should the smart money would have been on Puelas, I feel like. In that sense, when you break it down and simplify it, smart money would have been on Puelas. And sometimes you can't really think all too much in depth. Sometimes just see what it is, find the big factors, point to those, and we look at those big factors. Puelas should have been the winner, and he came out and won just as he should have. And then to our next one and final one was Venata, or let me say Lando Venata versus Charles Jordan, 45. And what my thing with this one is, some stuff maybe you could say this, you could say that, but right now, like you could say, oh, Venata might have won if he was like he didn't have a bad wake up. Maybe all things would have changed, but you can't really focus too much on that. I mean, you focus on the fact that it's a wake up, but not can't say like, because when I predict fights, I predict before weigh-ins. I predict a lot of times months before weigh-ins. So, but the thing with that one, like not even trying to focus on the present day things as far as with that one, but just in general to try to generalize that one is currently with like what past 5 years, maybe more, maybe less, roughly 5 years, give or take, cutting down has not really favored a lot of guys. And I'm gonna go back to the as far as predicting fights based off people's like you said, age, cutting weight, and like the same factor, like unless the person just cutting down they got a good style matchup, or the person fighting just not that good, or they're that good or something, favor the person that's been at the weight class. And Charles Jordan has been at the weight class. I'm not saying that Venata hadn't fought at 40. Like prior to the UFC, Venata had fought at 45, but he has spent a good number of years at 55, and now he's returning. And tight matchup, especially cutting down and cutting weight in general right now to make dropping a weight class historically, like statistically wise, lately has been good money to bet on a fighter that's not cutting the weight, not coming to the new weight class as far as going down. Going up has been pretty good for people, pretty good for most people. Not most people, but statistically has been pretty good, like favoring people going up if they have the technical skills to go up. Like it's not a case of you just go up because you too big or whatever the case may be. You go up because but it maybe being big could be a factor to why you're going up because I mean it's a factor. Like you been spending so much time trying to make a weight class, and you're not focusing on your technical skills. Then you go up, you're still a big guy at the other weight class or a good size at the other weight class, and now you have time to work on your skills. You're faster, you're sharper, your brains got more liquid in it, and like I say, you can wearing shots better, giving the shots better, and you're just as big, sometimes even bigger than these guys and more technical because you spend so much time in this lower weight class. But going down is like you're slower, you're less technical, you can't wear shots the best, and yeah. But so I guess the one thing I could have done this one instead tight matchup. I feel like Venata was the more rounded fighter. Clearly, Jordan said I got some tools as well and was able to tap out Venata. I was thinking Venata would tap him out. I think Venata's wrestling would be a bigger factor in this one, or at least in a tight matchup, it would have been one. But ended up just putting him in a guillotine or put him in the submission ways of a submission, and he got tapped out. But yeah, I guess the outlier I could see is like tight matchup. Venata, I mean, he already had one win at 45, but it was against really one-dimensional fighter in Grundy, who's just a wrestler. He got a little bit of power in his hands every now and then, but for the most part, just a wrestler. Then you got Jordan, kind of falls into just a striker, but you have seen his grappling. He's definitely, I would say, more well-rounded than Grundy. You might say, oh, no, he definitely kind of falls, definitely heavily favors striking, but you definitely could see the grappling. Whereas Grundy, he might have one knockout or two knockout losses, knockout wins on his record, but for the most part, the guy gonna throw like 20 strikes a fight, but go for like 20 takedowns. So it's like a big disparity between the two. But anywho, tight matchup, relatively even skill set. The biggest outlier was the fact, like I might have felt that the wrestling and the statistically, I was focusing on how low Jordan's wrestling defense stat was. It was like 45 or something. It's not like yeah, that's how low that was. And the fact he got tapped by Rosa. But the biggest factor and the one that has been more consistent as far as as of late, like over these past couple of years, 5 years, whatever it may be, is that cutting weight down, tight matchup, favorite guy that's been at the weight class long, has been already established somebody at that weight class, and this hasn't been like doing a whole lot of shifting. Like Jordan has been a 45er and has been stuck at that 45. I mean, he came in on short notice at 455, but that was one time. And then from there on, he stayed at 45, and he didn't try to, venture up to 55. Maybe a catchweight bout or something in there, but for the most part, 45 he has been at. Venata has fought one fight at 45 and had probably fought like 10, 12 fights or 13, 14 fights at lightweight in the UFC. So he had already established him there. But yeah. And again, like the weight cut could have been a factor, but as far as like how I do predictions, it's not the case I'm gonna be wait to the whole every single way and then try to predict fights like less than 24 hours before the card starts. That's not what I'm gonna do ever. So maybe betting wise I would do that, but predicting wise, I'm not doing that. And I'm not gonna and we also seen these other cards where these guys look bad on skills, but they're going out there and dominating their opponent. So I think more so the factor is if they're trying to go down to a newer weight class. Even if they already had a win at that weight class, like they dropped down and already got a win, tight matchup, unless it's like such a stylistic advantage or just a clear skill advantage or a clear path to victory for the guy going down or freshly establishing himself in the weight class, at least in the division or at least in the UFC wise, go with a guy that's been there, like in the tight matchup, that's already been there. And I already said this like 20 times, but you guys get the point. In the main event, Yeah, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a couple of little people kind of putting little coins on Lemos and were high on Lemos. But it's like Lemos was a clear. Well, I wouldn't want to draw. I'm not saying I would pick Lemos. I picked Andrade. So my three picks I got wrong already out the table. But I just had to mention the main event at least in the video before I wrap it up. But yeah, not much, a whole lot happened. Somebody said, "Oh, Lemos was looking good." Lemos really ain't do nothing. She landed a couple little kicks here, there. Didn't really land us on his feet. Andrade baited her time and then tapped out with under 2 minutes with a standing arm triangle. So I can't draw anything from Lemos in that little bit of seconds. She ain't do nothing impressive. She ain't do nothing. Ain't Andrade was nothing. Ain't Lemos was nothing. Andrade filled her out. She took a little kick or two on the leg, like wasn't phased by it, kept moving her head, kept walking her down. She didn't really, maul her like she would typically do, but she, like I said, she saw it first round, and she's a smart thing. It's not a case, oh, she's scared to strike with her. She wasn't. She was aware that that's her best path to victory is maybe in the early rounds when she got power and she filled her out. And even if the fight would have extended, she would have survived that submission. Really, all Andrade probably was doing, like her, was either get her out, grapple with her early, and then maybe finish her late. Maybe if she grappled her, like, the submission presents itself, she gets her out there early. But I feel like overall the thing was don't strike with her too much early. Let some of that power zap away, wear her down, and then like in the later rounds, or second, third, really like second half of the second round, third, fourth, fifth would be your round, like if you needed to be, because that power will start to fade, and then you having that experience will be able to allow you to win a round. It's not a case of, oh, I'm scared. Like even people that could be the best strikers in the world going against another one of the better strikers in the world, or even somebody that has some power, or has some of this, has some of that. If it's MMA, they're gonna look to probably try to, unless they're trying to say, oh, test their striking. Like I want to show that I'm the best striker in the world, best striker in the division, and like a little bit of an ego thing. But when they like fully mixed martial artists, they really think about winning and getting to the back to the belt or winning the belt, they're gonna mix it up. That's the thing. But yeah, I feel like the Lemos last fight with Angela Hill clearly showed a lot of weaknesses, and it was a big jump for her. Like you literally fight Angela Hill, who's not a bad fighter, but definitely not recognizing one of the top 10, top 5 pound for pound women actively in the women's MMA. So you jump from her and you struggle with her, barely beat her, probably should have lost to her. Then you jump up and you fight a woman who's younger than you, more accomplished than you, top 5, top 10 pound for pound women's MMA, probably all time, and only getting better, more around it. And your best shot is to really try to get a finish early. That's your best shot. Or hope you do well enough early that could carry you to a decision. And that's not really good money, especially for a woman who is not like, especially for a woman who has not been there. I could see if she had been there and like, oh, she did this against her, she did this against her, oh, she beat this solid woman like this. But some at this point, irrelevant competition in Angela Hill, and even some people at this level, where Andrade is, Angela Hill is irrelevant. I'm not saying in the sport of MMA she's irrelevant, or the other people she beat are necessarily irrelevant, but to the level where Andrade is, those people she beat are all her wins, etc. are irrelevant. She don't have no relevant wins, like no top 10, top 5 wins. She don't, as far as Lemos. But yeah, I feel like that's why I made Andrade a lock. It was a lock pick, and I definitely don't try to put so much emphasis on that one punch knockout ability, especially for somebody who has proven to be a tank in just about all of her fights outside the Weili Zhang fight. But that's the video. I'm dragging it, but that's my dogs. Again, the Barry Jackson fight, a loss, but ain't much nothing to draw from it. Guida fight, age comes to factor, skill sets come to factor, and then the biggest outlier with Orlando Venata versus Jordan, tight matchup. Unless there's a clear skill advantage or a clear path to victory necessarily for either favor the guy in this current era that is actually established in that weight class and has been in that weight class over the person who's freshly cutting into this weight class, or at least like still getting their feet at the weight class. Because right now, odds have very been favoring the person in their actual weight class or in the weight class that they have been comfortable with and have become accustomed to. And that person coming down not accustomed to weight class, they're cutting more weight and they gotta adjust, spend more time cutting weight with a person like they already mastered cutting that weight because they've been fighting that weight class for like 3-4 years, maybe more, maybe definitely probably more. But that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.